This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hey there, this is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, and we're live around the world. It's Giving Tuesday. This is Movie Reviews and More, live Pandora, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, 103 outlets around the world, and I've been looking forward to this show for a couple months, and the reason for that is because, one, James is going to come back, and he's got a lot of stuff to say, but also, Pamela is like an late addition. And I found what she does is quite interesting. And I never know what's going to happen with everybody. As you can see, the last 15 minutes, things have been stirring in the pot. This is a roundup way, and I'm just going to go for it like I usually do. So I got to start off with my good friend. I couldn't do a lot of stuff without her. She looks beautiful today. She doesn't look like Bewitched. She looks like herself today. The one and only Rachel Roberts Recipes from Houston, Texas. Nonstop Terri Marie will be on later. She's got a bee or a wasp problem, but it's rectified. So don't start the show without me. I'm like, we're starting the show without you, no matter what. We wait for no one. You can join later. And Howard Wiggins, I don't even know where Howard is. Rachel, what's going on with Howard? It's not like he hasn't been on our show before. He's one of our co-hosts. So it's one of those things that's going on. There's a film that I like. Matthew, I want you to talk about this film. I want you to introduce yourself, who you are. This is fascinating. Found at the Jewish Film Festival, and I had to have it because you got something going on this Thursday. But before we get to you, Matthew, Pamela, honor the pleasure to have you on here. I loved what you created with Fit and Fun Playscapes. That is fascinating. I can't wait to tell everybody about that. And James, obviously, you're in that Inventor, the director, Black Inventors Hall of Fame. We couldn't do a lot of stuff. And talking about toy business, I've been talking to a couple people about you from last week. Sandy LaPierre, Carrie from Toy Fest, and obviously Sue Warfield from Astro, which where you're coming this weekend in Ohio. So, Matthew, let's start with you. Let's talk about this movie that no one really knows of, but I want everybody to know of. This is a great movie. It gets the 4 E's from Movie Reviews and More. It's entertaining, it's exciting, it's empathetic, and it's educational. When you get the 4 E's from Movie Reviews and More, you don't get any better than that. This is one of these things. Can't get any better than that. No, and I want you to put it on your future poster if you have it too. When it comes to DVD, you can use that. But it's one of these things. It's all about the environment. It's all about water. But who are the Marcuses? Take it away.
Well, the film title poses the question that the film begins with. So the film is about an elderly couple who passed away within a few months of each other in 2016. He was 104 and a dentist. She was 98 and his secretary. Nobody knew they had any money. Nobody had heard of them. And there was a front page piece in the Wall Street Journal a few days later that they had $500 million that nobody knew they had, and that they had given it all away with the approval. And in fact, it was the plan of their daughter who was set to inherit it. And they gave it to a university in the Negev Desert in Israel. And the money was left specifically to this university because of its cutting edge and world-changing technological work in water. And so the film is about a couple no one had ever heard of who had an enormous fortune nobody knew about. And they gave it all away to solve an issue that is really the defining issue of our time. Because when we talk about the climate crisis, we're really talking about water. Too much water or not enough water. And this trailblazing yet unheralded couple had a vision, and their vision was that by funding research, and Israel was leading the world and still is leading the world in water technology, that we could make a real impact on the climate crisis. And so I think the film is inspiring and uplifting and provides some real practical solutions to a problem that many of us find unapproachable, terrifying, scary. And so here's the movie that doesn't just identify the problem, but I think also identifies some solutions.
And I want to talk about this. I want to show a little bit of this clip because it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I believe. We'll show a little bit about this because it's very interesting. Again, who are the Marcuses?
The population of the world is growing, rain patterns are changing, temperatures are rising, and our water needs are growing.
Unprecedented, the contribution of the Marcus couple.
$500 million.
I just couldn't believe it.
Who are they, and where do they get all that money?
It's an incredible story.
If you do one really important thing in your life and you make it count, you've succeeded as far as I'm concerned.
April of 33, I realized at that point that my time in Germany was up.
That consul general saved my father's life. Having survived the Holocaust, they felt very strongly that they wanted to support Israel.
Now, Matthew, I just wanted to show a little bit of taste of that. Talk about it. It's going to San Diego this week, actually Thursday.
Yeah,
and
that's
if I
great.
had known about this convention, I mean, this festival, I would have gone down to it. I didn't even know about this. And I'm really all about anything environmentally friendly, sustainable, and then for our future net zero. So that's why I really loved it. And then
we're in the midst of a really exciting festival run. The film premiered at Newport and then Santa Barbara International, and it's been showing around the world ever since. And our next stop Thursday night is the Blue Water Film Festival in San Diego, which I should mention, by the way, is one of the few localities in the United States that has, there's technology that we cover in the film, particularly related to desalination, and San Diego is one of the places where that's happening. So I think it's a great place to show the movie. And of course, California generally is in the midst of a water crisis that threatens the very future of the state. And so we're really excited to show it in California, to team up with Blue Water and to get the word out.
all right, we're going to come back to you. Pamela, talk about this. How did you start this thing that's fascinating, besides having your kids involved, but talk about how you created Fit and Fun Playscapes, because I didn't know anything about this till I read it. I'm like, how do I not know about this? This is actually fascinating. This is fun. And a woman created it. You had my attention after that, so I have to thank Ruthie for bringing you to me at that minute.
Thank you. So I kind of stumbled upon it as a volunteer project. My background's architect. I'm a licensed architect in New York. I was a planner, and I was asked to volunteer at my then eldest son's, the principal, to redo the playground with games. And so I was on a committee, and we, with local people, were in Cold Spring, which is the Hudson Valley part of New York, along the Hudson River, a very small community. And we were out there, what turned out to be days, painting by hand all these games outside, a lot of them that you see there. And then I just was really amazed at the end result of, seeing the kids enjoy the games. And we did really unique things. There was a lot of color that was, necessary, that was on the priority. But then to see how they reacted to the games was like lightning bolts, like sparks, however you want to call it. And just over time, I just started sketching and design, looking at materials. And then, a friend is a lawyer. She set up the LLC, and another friend, helped me with the website. And I just, for, a long time, I would just put every dime I made back into the business and building. And so today we're in about 8,000 locations across the country, Australia and Canada. And we love what we do. We're helping kids, and we just launched Fit and Fun Forever last week, which are activities for active adults and seniors. So we've got a lot in front of us.
Who doesn't need that, right, Rachel? I mean, that's
yeah.
great. So this
Yeah.
segues into James because James is, he comes in on that toy side of things, obviously, and with the Black inventors, who got game, who invented, and manufactured and created games. So James, at that point, take it away and how you started the Black Inventors Hall of Fame and why it's
By all
relevant.
means, by all means. I appreciate the introduction, Brian. To begin with, Brother Matthew, that's an amazing documentary piece you got there, man. And what an endorsement from Warren Buffett. Absolutely. That has to be over the top for sure. And Pamela, talk about scaling. Wow. 2,000 locations already throughout the country. That's amazing. You have a remarkable product. And if you're not already connected to Astra, the American Specialty Toy and Retail Association, I would like to have the pleasure of bringing you into their orbit.
Definitely.
Remarkable product. Okay. And as Brian made note, I will be attending this coming weekend the very conference that brought Brian and I together for the first time last year in Long Beach.
It's exactly 1 day away from a year ago that happened.
Yes, 1 day away from a year. I was in this man's presence and my life changed forever. So,
well, Brian, I don't know about that. I think it was the other way around. No. Rachel, because of James, he brought us into the toy business on things. Oh, and wow. Matthew, because of that, he directed his documentary on things. So again, you put these shows together 4 months in advance and things happen at the last minute, but there is a connection with everything, and that's what I wanted. So James, continue. Go ahead.
Yes, and in my world, we call that the laws of attraction. Right. Mm-hmm. So to give you an idea, audience, of my background, I'm a prolific entrepreneur, a prolific inventor, rather. I have over 20 patents. I've designed over 400 products, and I have probably worked on close to 1,000 actually design type programs. My passion today is to give back, and so I have started a nonprofit called Black Inventors Hall of Fame and Black Inventors Hall of Fame Film. The Black Inventors Hall of Fame focuses on designing and building the country's first museum dedicated exclusively to immortalizing the pioneering genius of African-American inventors over the past 400 years. Mm-hmm. Then Black Inventors Hall of Fame Film, right, allies with that and tells the story of African-American inventors, which is how I was brought into Sebastian's orbit last year, because at that particular conference, the Astra conference in Long Beach, we were debuting our film, Big, Black Inventors Got Game. And then after the film, we embarked upon a panel discussion. Well, this year we'll be showcasing on Sunday and premiering the second episode of that series. And this particular episode highlights Ken Johnson and David Vonner, two of my close colleagues in the toy and game industry. Ken Johnson is celebrating 40 years as the inventor of the Phase 10 card game. Now, for some of you out there in the audience who may or may not know Phase 10, it happens to be the second most popular selling card game in the entire world, second only to Uno. And Brother Ken is celebrating 40 years, so we'll be premiering episode 2, which highlights his remarkable career as well as David Vonner's remarkable career. And I know Sebastian is a very close friend of David, and David has a background with both Hasbro, Mattel, and others in the toy and game industry. Remarkable brother. He's worked on Marvel superhero figures and just really a great individual. So I'm going to be partnering with him along with Adrienne Smith. Now, Adrienne Smith is a remarkable lady. She is the face of women's football. Rachel, I didn't even know they had a women's football league that actually plays tackle. We're not talking about this touch stuff. We're talking hard on tackle. And Adrienne Smith happens to be the face of women's football for the Boston Patriots up here, up my way. Boston Renegades, rather.
Love it.
And
she's gorgeous. What does she got?
She is very, very gorgeous. She has more championship rings than Tom Brady, right? And what makes her so significant is that she has her own media company, and she is also an inventor. And has invented a football playing card game called Blitz Champs. And what's so amazing about this particular weekend's panel, Sebastian, is that she is going to be meeting for the first time her mentor, because Ken Johnson served as her mentor as she was developing her card game, Blitzchamp. So here you have a 40-year, right, inventor of Phase 10 mentoring a young entrepreneurial female sister, and then suddenly she gets to meet him for the first time at this conference and also share her experience. So it's a remarkable opportunity. I'm sorry that you won't be there, Sebastian, but you can't be in.
Oh, no. I haven't. I'm working on getting there for 48 hours. I'm working on it. I got to figure something out with my friend's dog. I'm working on it.
No problem. No problem.
And with that, so Rachel, introduce yourself, and then we're going to go to Howard.
Rachel Roberts Recipes. Hello, Howard. Did you see Howard? By the way, did you see I found that video of us?
I did.
That's awesome, right? Welcome, Howard.
Thank you.
How are you, Howard?
Doing fine. I finally
Rachel
got
Roberts.
home.
Yeah. Well, we are so glad that you joined us. We were missing you. We you know what? You're on every week, and we couldn't imagine having a show without you.
Well, good. I'm glad to be here. So let's get started.
Good. All right.
All right, Rachel, tell them who you are, and then we're going to go to Howard, and you're going to go after Matthew.
Okay, so Rachel Roberts, and I have a little morning show called Coffee Talk, and working on my own TV show, a little cooking show, and working on a book, and all sorts of fun stuff. So you can see me on social media, anywhere, and Rachel Roberts Recipes.
Howard
Wiggins, Facebook. I'm the son of Leroy Wiggins. I'm an ex-interior designer, one of the world's 35 leading interior designers, in Andrew Martin Volume 3 book. If you watch my Facebook, you'll see me dancing all the time. I'm enjoying life. I'm seeing where it's going to take me. So please follow me on Facebook.
And then Howard, boy, you look good today. You look like you're like 35 years old.
I dressed more casual today. It's hot here.
Wow. No, I mean, Howard's almost 70. He looks 35 today. Literally.
Well, I got ready for that photo shoot in the magazine, so wait till you see me there.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
So Matthew, so now that you've been introduced to everybody else and you see how everything is tying in, talk about doing your documentary. It's never easy to do so, and the fact that you got Warren Buffett, kudos off to you. I mean, that's can't be easy.
Yeah, it was surprisingly easy, but I think because Mr. Buffett was such an advocate for the story we were telling, and of course he was a part of the story. But when we were first approached, when my producer and I were first approached with the story, there was an EP in Colorado who kind of put it all together, put the movie together, and brought it to us. And I looked at the story and said, "Well, this is interesting, but is there a greater context?" And that's really where I think we connected very strongly to the water story and realized, in fact, this is the issue of our time, and we can have a real opportunity here to make a film and tell a story that provides solutions to that problem. And we realized that philanthropy was going to be the other sort of important thread in the film. And no spoilers because you can kind of read about it online, but the Marcuses were entirely, as an accident of history, very early investors in Warren Buffett. And so we initially thought, wouldn't it be a pipe dream to get Mr. Buffett to actually be in the movie? And so we called him, and his office set up an interview. And initially,
wait a minute, it couldn't have been that easy, really. I mean, he does play a big part because they invested into him before he started Berkshire Hathaway. I mean, that's
I'm writing that down. I'm like, what?
In the late 50s, early 60s, like they were very, very early investors. So we contacted Mr. Buffett's office and thought, well, maybe he'll have a piece of paper somewhere in a filing cabinet related to this story, and that'll be that. And the assistant wrote back to us and said, "Oh no, Mr. Buffett remembers the Marcuses. He's very inspired by their story. He loves Ellen and her decision to work with her parents to give the money away and change the world. And would you like to come to Omaha in a few weeks and interview Mr. Buffett? We'll give you a 15-minute slot in the schedule." And we did. We flew to Omaha. We interviewed Mr. Buffett. He had a lot to say. It turned out to be a 2-hour interview. And
good for you.
And he's one of the stars of the movie. And I think for good reason. He's a leading force, really, not just in the financial world, but in the world of philanthropy. And the Giving Pledge, which Mr. Buffett co-founded with Bill and Melinda Gates, is inspiring a lot of people with tremendous wealth to think about wealth and their families and what to do with it, and how they can possibly make a generational change for the world. And I think if that's one of the messages and one of the threads that people take from the film, how can the immense amount of wealth that's been generated in just the last generation possibly move the needle on some of these seemingly intractable problems in the world, we will have done our job. So I hope people do take that message away from the film. And I think the way Mr. Buffett tells that story in the movie is just incredibly powerful, and people won't want to miss it.
So Matthew, when it comes to, as soon as I see a film, I know that no one has seen it, especially, our team. I immediately want to send them a link or call them and say, I just saw another film. No one really knows about it. It's at one of the film festivals, because, this is the third one I'm doing, and only last week. The Jewish Film Festival, the Latino Film Festival, and the Greek Film Festival kind of overlapping, and never mind anything else I was doing. And I love finding these gems, and I love doing this because, and James knows this, it's not easy to make a film. You've got to raise that money, and then you've got to get it out there for somebody to see it. And I don't do one and done, Matthew. Once I see a film, I will talk about it till the day I die, and I plan on living to 130, because if you know me, everybody knows. No, I've been saying this since my sophomore year in school. It's all about eating clean, and Rachel will know you because she eats clean and drinks a little dirty. She will tell you. But it's one of those things, you have to have good soil, good water, and good healthy food. And we talk about these things when it comes to that. So your story really has 3 stories in that one movie. And then you have why Israel is one of the leaders, and then followed by Spain on conserving water and waste management and recycling, because we're all about that. So I've been doing that since 2014.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think actually that point, takes me to California, because I think that California can find the inspiration to save itself environmentally from what we've done in Israel. And the Israel that my father and grandparents grew up in, it's a very young, very new country, struggling to survive, a very poor country, and a water-starved country, without really the ability to grow its population in a very arid land with not a lot of water. And it was through innovation and through the political prioritization of water, technology, and development that the country's grown to be a country of 9 million people now, and everybody has enough water. And in fact, we're a net exporter of water to our neighbors, and water can then become the basis of diplomacy and possibly even peace in the region. So there are technological solutions to water problems, and Israel has implemented them very, very quickly out of necessity and out of a need to grow its population and to be able to inhabit the Negev desert, where very, very few people were living because there was no water. And California, although it's been a sort of a paradise for a century, is now really has kicked the water can down the road and has kind of reached the end of that road. And we need to address the problem now. And we could look to a small country like Israel that's leading its region, which is a water-starved region, for solutions to that problem. And I'll mention just 3 of them very quickly, because I think they might be of interest to viewers and listeners. You'll learn a lot about them in the film, but wastewater reuse doesn't sound sexy, but it's a very important element. Drip water irrigation, so irrigating our crops the correct way, as opposed to using flood irrigation, which is very wasteful of water, is another. And then deciding where it makes sense to actually get our clean water. And desal is something that California really should be looking at instead of draining the Colorado River. And I think all 3 of these solutions are going to be adapted in California. It's going to happen. How quickly it happens will determine our economic future in the state.
Well, Matthew, we're not waiting. For one, we have Balance 7 water, so we take care of that in And then I know of WaterGen out of Israel because I met them in 2019 at the CES show. So I have them. And then we have a water aspect machine from, remember Rachel, and I think Howard was on it too, Moses West. he creates them. He's a black inventor who has the Water Act, and so he came out of the military. Yeah, see, I see James writing his name down already. James actually told me about him. Well, Rachel, he's coming back, and he's coming back to Houston because Houston's got the weirdest weather, and two of those machines are coming on our property, Dreamweaver Artist Ranch. So yes, it's always about those things like that. Matthew, I got to come back to you. Poor Pamela's been waiting for the longest time.
Well, that's
Pamela,
okay.
this is one of the things that we do. It's getting everybody in with all the stuff, but at the same time, if you're not fit, and Rachel will tell you because she works with her katsu and she eats clean and drinks a little bit of dirty, but it's always about that healthy food, that great soil. And if you're not exercising, where are we? And Howard knows that. That's why he looks 35 when he's really 70. But that's the case.
That is true, but no worries at all. I can't wait to see the movie, Matthew. And a friend of mine told me a few weeks ago, I was thinking, I'm going to move south out of New York. Tired of New York, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, don't do that. Stay in New York because and go upstate New York. That's where really good quality water is. And she's like, don't you know water is the new oil? And I'm like, I never heard that. But it's so true. And anyway, so I don't mind.
You're totally right. Yeah, you're onto something.
It is. It is the new.
The next war will be fought over water. I started seeing that in 2014. Wow. And again, that's one of the reasons, and Howard and Rachel and Terry, that's one of the reasons why I have a bunch of these eco-friendly, sustainable, and net zero for the Dreamweaver Artist Ranch coming on for stuff. It's about capturing water from the cloud. But at the same time, Dreamweaver Artist Ranch, but at the same time, and James knows this, it's about giving proper due to those people who invented these things, who may not have known, because, Matthew, we're not going to give a lot away to this movie because it's so good. The Marcuses didn't know what they were worth. They had no idea. It didn't matter to them. And that was fascinating to me, and I loved that.
Well, they prioritized more than actual material wealth. They prioritized and believed in their ability to make a positive change for the future. And I think the film subtly makes the case that is its own kind of wealth, and maybe the only kind worth acquiring. I wanted to just second what you said. In reference to James, inventors and innovators are always needed, and in fact, as much as conservation and education and those sorts of simple solutions can help alleviate crises, the crises the world faces environmentally are so massive and so seemingly intractable that it's really innovation and invention. And our ability to education into new processes for addressing these problems, that will really get us out of the bind. And so the inventors and innovators are the saviors of the next generations.
Hey, Rachel, talk about why. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, James. Go ahead.
No, I was about to commend him for making that statement. And Matthew, I would like to make this offer to you. I am a professor at the University of Texas, Austin, and every single semester I have my students take on a water challenge project. I'd like to have a sidebar conversation with you on how we can dovetail some of this innovative thinking into their efforts, right? I have over 20 some odd students at my disposal every single semester to try to address this issue, right? And most recently, we dealt with one in West Africa.
Fantastic.
Whereby a young lady by the name of Chiru, 6 years, has to wake up along with her siblings every single day and trek over 1.5 miles just to try to bring some clean, potable water back to the village, right? So we take on those types of scenarios and then try to offer up solutions. But you have a real platform here, and I would love to challenge students and have a conversation with you on we can turn this into an innovative thinking project. Every single one of these students are studying design thinking. So they think big. They're not afraid to tackle big problems, right?
That's exactly what Mr. Buffett says in the film, I think so effectively. He says, take on the big, especially if you have immense amounts of wealth to throw at it, or even just immense amounts of talent, take on the big problems, right? They're not easy to solve. Otherwise, somebody would have already solved it. And not everything you try is going to work. In fact, most times it's not going to work. But if it works once, then you have, a generation defining innovation, and it's worth the risk.
But it's all those innovators are kids one day. Segue a little bit back to me a little bit, because thinking about innovation and innovators, it has to happen when, first of all, I feel like people like that, like us, like me, we were sort of born that way, right? Innovation is not necessarily something that's learned. A lot of the passion and the ideas are because we're all a little different. We're thinking ahead. We're thinking of how to do it better. And that kind of thinking is hard to come by these days. The schools have a lot of standards that they have, especially public education. They have a lot of standards that they have to strictly adhere to. They're getting tested. The kids are getting tested. Post-pandemic, it was a struggle before COVID. Now you're trying to catch kids up that are 2 years behind, that they're behaving not even just academically, but socially and physically and social emotionally. And and I understand it's just a difficult situation, trying to jam that all down some kid's throat and wants them to sit down. And where's the innovation in that?
Well, the beautiful thing about what you're saying, Pam, particularly in post-COVID, is that we have come to a realization, right, that invention education is a necessary requisite now. We have to fold that in to our Western world ideological, pedagogical model. So invention education is really where we're going to address some of these issues. And as you may know, we don't wait till they get to high school. We don't even wait till they get to college. We start implementing that now. In fact, even with your product, your Fit and Fun Playscapes, right? Because that's where it starts. You start playing. Your mind starts.
Gotta think out of the box. Gotta think outside
the box. And the older you get, unfortunately, by the time we get to our age and younger, you become resistant to the notion of change. So we need to change that model where these kids grow up innovators, right? And so this is what I love what both of you are doing, you on the kid side and Matthew, you on the documentary side. So I think collectively, we should just have a sidebar conversation on how we can continue this narrative of bringing innovation to solving wicked world problems the way you are addressing right now, Matthew, in your documentary.
Yeah, and I think the schools just need to find their way through this and figure out how to allow the kids to be creative. I love that.
More of that, everyone. The art of creative rebellion. And
and I think the schools do try. They're trying to accept and deal with neurodiverse people with ADD, Asperger's spectrum, and diversity, and they're trying to figure that out as best as they can. It's just
the school
far behind.
The school wants to do it, right? They're compliant. It is the government bodies. It's the government bodies and the decision makers that need a change of heart. This is why what you have done, Matthew, is so important. So Warren Buffett is the exemplar, right? He's the exemplar. So maybe more will now follow, right? His good friend Bill Gates does the same thing, but mostly on the technological side. But Gates and his foundation, they invest in these types of projects as well. So we need more examples like that, more leaders like these guys that do have all the money, right? But you don't really need money to be innovative. All you need is empathy, an open heart, and just care. Just care about the matters that sustains human existence.
Hey, Rachel. So Rachel is the healthy one in Howard, more than me now, which is interesting. But it's one of those things where she's always creating that food. James, remember the last time she was on, she made something special. She was busy today, but she still looks great for what she's doing. Indeed, so Rachel, talk about when it comes to your cooking, why is that important of eating healthy?
I think it's definitely important, especially for children, and to introduce children all the time to new things. So I'm a firm believer that we should, if we can, I know not everybody can do this, but try to grow things in your garden. It brings so much joy in your life. In the mornings, you go out with your children, you walk outside barefoot on the ground, and you see what's growing. And every day you see, look at the cucumbers, let's go make some pickles. And you get in there with your kids. And by the way, I have an 8-year-old who's in first grade because of the whole COVID thing. So like, it's, I definitely, Pamela, all the things you were saying, it's like bells, going off. I definitely understand. And he got COVID this year, and so he missed a lot of school. And I was like, if they were talking about holding him back, I'm like, if you're gonna have a 9-year-old
and he's a good student too, isn't he?
Oh, he's in the honor roll every time. But they were like, well, he's anyway. Yeah. So, but it's real important. I definitely think to eating clean and staying young. I'll be 50 this year, and I think a big part of staying young and healthy is just eating clean and feeling good. And for the kids too. And your doggies.
Exactly.
Everybody.
Which goes into Howard, because Howard doesn't drink. I mean, like I said, he's 35 today. He's not, he'll probably be 34 tomorrow. But what he does is he likes to dance. And I've actually seen him dance. And it's one of those things where his dancing is like his exercise, but he looks really good. And I couldn't be happier to have him on. And Rachel found him. And it was one of those things where I love having Howard on. I never know what he's going to wear. I never know which room in his mansion he's going to be in. And it's just fascinating.
Did you know what I did when I was 65? When I turned 65, I did 53 and a half miles in one day. And I could have walked more than that because I had to keep charging my phone.
See, now you got me feeling guilty, Howard, because I'm not waking up tomorrow doing no 53-mile trek, because I'll be turning 65 when I wake up tomorrow.
I had a friend that was dying of cancer, and of course, what can you do? And so in her honor, I did that for her, because she used to be what I call my gym wife. We used to exercise together, and she was in her 40s at that time, and it was like, I just wanted to pay tribute to her. So.
Sure.
So that's what I did. But I actually have to do it again at 70 and go 70 miles this birthday. But that would take me. I have to take the day off to do it. I might do it. I don't know.
Hey, Howard, talk about why your background is important. Talk about your art there. I don't think I've seen that painting.
This is the dog is Bun Gray painting, Walter Bun Gray, and he's one of my favorite artists. He showed in the Walter Finley gallery. Neil Simon and Marcia Mason had a Bun Gray in their living room. Elizabeth Taylor owned a Bun Gray. He was very famous in the 80s, and then kind of went down after that because of drugs. But anyway, but I love his art. I think I was young at the time. I met him because they had Saturday Night Live, and he had gone out with my stepfather's secretary, and they called me and said, "You dance like John Travolta. Come over here and dance for us." So that's what I did, and I met him, and we became friends, and I just bought more and more art, and I'm so grateful I did, because now he's passed on, and it's worth a lot now. So, but I've always had the eye of making art. I mean, even when I was young, I got a car inherited to me that was a Cadillac that was less than 2 years old, and I was driving that at 16. So I used to pretend like I was rich, and what I would do is I'd go shopping and pull in people's driveways and pretend like I'm coming home from Europe. And but I would go shopping, and I would buy things, and I would take them to auction, and I made money on it. So for my gas money, I never had to work. I just have an eye to know what's what. So, and I've always had that. So.
Well, that makes sense of why you became one of the world's best interior designers. That makes a lot more sense.
Oh yeah, and actually, I was looking at my Facebook the other day, and I wanted to create my most beautiful room and convert my garage into well, it's more like a man cave for Prince Charles, but I had it, and I was looking at it, and I had it where nothing matched. I mean, nothing at all matched, and it's so beautiful, and it's breaking all the rules. But once you learn the rules of design, then you know how to break them, and I know how to break them. And I've never seen anybody do that. So, but I didn't get a chance to do it yet. Maybe if I get a movie, make a lot of money, I can do that.
Well, you're on the right track, so that's good. Hey, Pamela, what's a piece of advice that you would give women of how you created and started your company? It's never easy to start a company. It's never easy to do a documentary or any of these things.
I would say get your women-owned business certification. as soon as you can, because it doesn't get any easier when you wait. I would say copyright and trademark whatever you can afford to do. I have about 40 copyrights and probably 20 something trademarks. They're invaluable. And get yourself a good partner to stand behind you, because times can go, they're tricky. They can go left or right, and you need a good support system, especially I think women, maybe more so than men. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not offending anybody, but I think that a lot of us need that camaraderie, that support when things don't go the way that you want, whether it's for a day, a month, or for a year. Strong family and friends around you can really help push you through.
And James, talk about it wasn't easy to do your documentary, was it? You had some great, fascinating people.
It was made easier because these brothers who are all about inventing games and toys, they love to share. They love to have a camera in front of them and open up to discussions. But what made my program more challenging was finding out where the common interests lie and trying to bring all of these brothers into the same space. And that was the difficulty. And as you know, Brian, we were able to do that. And on December 14th, 2 years ago, 2021, I was able to fly in 11 of the country's top towing game designers who happen to be African American, bring them all into the same space. Many of them were meeting
that no one knew of.
No one on the outside knew of, precisely. And they were meeting each other for the very first time. So what did? We decided to make that the film session. We decided to create that moment. And that's the moment that debuted last year when I met you in Long Beach. And that particular episode is called The Gathering. And The Gathering, I'm proud to say, has won 3 awards so far, including the Taggy right here. And the Taggy is the toy industry's version of the Game Changer of the Year. That's what it stands for. And it's won a couple of other film festival awards. So no, it wasn't easy, and I'm sure Matthew will be able to agree with this. When you have the passion, right, and the drive, there's really nothing that you can't accomplish and achieve. And at that point in time, it no longer becomes work. When you love what you're doing and you have that passion and you can back it with people who are supporting you, it's just so fulfilling. So, yeah.
All right, Terri, I got to jump into this. I'm throwing you on the spot. So you went to an event Saturday. We got about 7 minutes left. You went to an event Saturday. Let's talk about this. What was going on?
Yes. Sorry I'm late, everybody. I had some bee issues. I had bees in my house.
They know. I told them.
Okay. So anyway, this was the 11th annual poker tournament for S. Eisner's charity for autism, and I graduated viewing. I was able to interview. Obviously, you can see that's Eric Rogers. And then that's Tom Arnold. Jolie Fisher was there. There's a ton of celebrities. It was a great event. It was a great cause. That's what I love to do. I just love to be out there, talking with people, interviewing people. And it was at the lot that Mary Tyler Moore was filmed at, Seinfeld was filmed at, Gilligan's Island was filmed at. So there was so much history. Pink's Hot Dogs was there, so we got to all enjoy some Pink hot dogs, and so everybody was able to lose money for charity. So it was awesome. So I had a great time, Brian.
It was the New York lot at the Radford CBS studio where everything was shot, and I'm like, I can't go. So Terri went, and then the camera crew was there. So go and have fun. We got to thank Roz Wolf, the publicist. Roz is also the publicist for Matthew that was handling the Jewish Film Festival too. So it's one of those things, kind of, as you guys can see, it's not easy to put all this stuff together, but it does all go together. I'm just amazed that it works when it works, because Whoa, it's a lot to do. It's just like it's no different from putting the films together. And Matthew, you got to talk about this. Everybody to go down. We need to have everybody to come and support this film.
Yeah, if you're in
because
the
it is
San
really,
Diego
really
area,
good.
if you're in the San Diego area, join us Thursday night. It's at the Museum of Photographic Arts, MOPA, 7 o'clock Thursday night, and there's going to be a Q&A after the screening, and it should be a fantastic event, and possible special guests from the movie in attendance as well. So yeah, make it if you can. And Brian, we have to thank you for helping spread the word and beating the proverbial drum. You put a movie out into the world, but it only gets so far as champions and supporters will take it. So thank you so much for helping us get the story out there.
Well, it's the same thing when James came on. We had to do a part 1, part 2 because he had so many inventors that people didn't know. But like I said, a year later, tomorrow is the year that we met in person at Astra. And again, I would have never known that we would have entered the toy business. So I have to thank him and David Vonner in that, because it was all about a movie that kind of tied everything together. And again, for you, Matthew, it's about tying water together. We already have a water atmosphere from Moses West, who's an inventor, from that Water Gen, who I found at the CES show, Consumer Electronics Show. These things are really important. We have to save water. Without water, we don't exist. And you got to be in the world of fitness. But Matthew, we got about 4 minutes left. Give your social media links for everybody.
Yes, sure. So whoarethemarcuses.com if you want to see upcoming screenings, and we'll keep you posted when the movie's on streaming, which will be in a few months. And on Instagram, it's at whoarethemarcuses.
Terri?
Nonstop Terri Marie on all platforms, and then my website is terrimarieofficial.com.
Rachel, why should people turn out? She's got a whole gang of people that turn out for her coffee talk, but she needs more. Why not have more, right, Rachel?
That's right. Always welcome. Rachel Roberts Recipes, coffee talk.
Howard
Wiggins, Facebook, it's simple.
James.
All right. BuyHoff.org. You can go there and have access to all of my other additional social media outlets. BuyHoff, BIHOF.org.
And give a plug to those people who are going to come out and see you at Astro Toy Convention coming up next weekend.
Yes, that is going to be this coming Sunday in Columbus, Ohio. We'll be previewing episode 2 that features David Vonner and Ken Johnson. Episode 2 of Big Black Inventors Got Game. And then afterwards, we're going to have a panel discussion on DEI and matters that pertains to African American creatives in the toy and game space.
And so last year's ballroom was sold out. It was interesting. Everybody on the panel, except for myself, was African American. The rest of the audience was white, and it was sold out. There was 230 of them in there. It was packed. How do I know? I counted. I'm a counter when it comes to those things. But it was so fascinating because they had never heard the story. Just like Who Are the Marcuses? I always want to have those people know these things. It's really, really important to know where you came from and where you're going. Right, Pamela? Pamela, yes. You get the last word on this. Talk about why people should support, Fit and Fun's Playscapes. Why is that?
I think because people in general we all realize we're not moving enough. We are sitting most of the time. As adults, that's not healthy. Can you imagine what it's like for a kid or an older adult that is, worried about balance and dementia? So we all need to be moving more. We like to say that we're creating cultures of daily movement, and that we should embrace diverse ways to move our bodies. There's no, movement doesn't mean you're lifting weights or your aerobics. It really, there's so many opportunities to move throughout the day in little spurts or large ones, or go for walks. And so the concept is that, this helps you lead a healthier lifestyle. It brings oxygen through your body, and it helps regulate as well as being physically fit.
And it's one of those things where it's important. So I really like this show. I want to have everybody back. And Matthew, it would be interesting to see what happens where you go after that festival. James, I want to see, hopefully, if I can get 48 hours or 24 hours, I will get to Ohio. I'll make it work somewhere. It's not like I haven't done it before. I'll make it work. Howard, you got to keep dancing. Howard, next week, I'm going to have 3 of your dancing. So we're going to talk about this. This is going to be very interesting because I got a surprise for you guys in 2 weeks. And Rachel, we got to get you back to your katsu. And you know what? Don't forget, Dr. Noristani, Balance 7 Water. Howard, did you get your water yet?
I did.
Ah, no wonder. Good.
Got hair growing here. It's from the Balance 7.
I can see it from the beard.
Yeah, really, a little bit.
So I want to thank everybody for coming on. And I always say this. Have a good night tonight. A better day tomorrow. You see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. I'm Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. And we will see you next week.